Welcome to this Schooling Online production. This lesson will go through an overarching theme that shapes the merchant of Venice, attitudes towards money. Back in Shakespeare's day, Venice was a bit like New York or Hong Kong, a big city full of money and business people working hard to get rich. Considering that Venice was full of merchants and moneylenders, it's a perfect setting for a story that's all about money. Let's start by looking at the friendship between Bassanio and Antonio. Bassanio says, "To you, Antonio, I owe the most, in money and in love." Notice the financial jargon, that is, the terminology related to money. Bassanio sees his relationship to Antonio as one of debt. He owes Antonio both money and love. Antonio has probably helped Bassanio out before, but that doesn't stop Bassanio from asking for help again. Bassanio is deep in debt and says to Antonio, "From your love, I have a warranty to get clear of all the debts I owe." Warranty and debts are more examples of financial jargon. Here, warranty is a metaphor expressing Antonio's guarantee that he'll do anything for Bassanio, and debts is a reminder of Bassanio's money troubles. Antonio is happy to help, saying, "My purse, my person, my extremest means lie all unlocked to your occasions." The tricolon, or set of three phrases, illustrates Antonio's generosity. The metaphor unlocked is another example of financial jargon. Before online banking and credit cards, people had to physically lock their money up, but everything that Antonio has is unlocked and available to Bassanio. Grateful, Bassanio reveals his plan, telling Antonio about a rich woman named Portia in Belmont, who happens to be single. However, plenty of eligible bachelors are after Portia's hand in marriage. Bassanio wistfully exclaims, "Oh, my Antonio, had I but the means to hold a rival place with one of them, I should questionless be fortunate." In other words, if Bassanio can scrape together enough means, that is money, then he also can pursue Portia as a suitor. When he marries her, he'll be fortunate. Fortunate has a double entendre, or two meanings. It means lucky, but it also means rich. Bassanio will be lucky and rich once he marries Portia. In Venice, money is what drives romance. Antonio agrees to give Bassanio some money to help him woo Portia and plans to borrow cash from a Jewish moneylender, Shylock. At first, Shylock is reluctant. He explains his reasoning in an aside, which is a device used to tell the audience what a character is secretly thinking. Shylock hates Antonio, and one of his main reasons is that Antonio lends out money gratis and brings down the rate of usance. This quote is full of financial jargon like gratis, which means free, and usance, which means interest. Basically, Antonio lends money without requiring the borrower to pay interest. Remember, Shakespeare's Christian audience thought that charging interest was immoral. Sometimes Antonio even gets up in front of everyone to insult and condemn Shylock for charging interest. As Shylock reminds him, "You have rated me about my moneys and my usances." The subtle repetition of "my" shows that Shylock takes this conflict very personally. Also, Antonio doesn't just insult Shylock's business of charging interest, he is constantly cruel to Shylock. "You call me misbeliever, cutthroat dog, and spit upon my Jewish gabardine." Juxtaposing, or putting side by side, the financial jargon of monies and usances with Antonio's invective language, or insults, suggests that Antonio's condemnation of Shylock's money-lending practices stems from a racist attitude towards Shylock for being a Jew. No wonder Shylock hates Antonio. In contrast, Antonio acts as if their relationship is just business. Antonio doesn't care that Shylock is hurt by his racist behaviour, proclaiming that he will probably spit on and spurn Shylock again. Somehow, he's still confident that Shylock will ignore their personal rivalry and lend him the money. He's even happy to pay interest. Business is business, right? Eventually, Shylock agrees to lend Antonio the money on one unusual condition. Seal me there your single bond. Let the forfeit be nominated for an equal pound of your fair flesh, to be cut off and taken in what part of your body pleaseth me. In other words, if Antonio can't pay back the money in time, Shylock will take a pound of his flesh, which obviously would kill Antonio. Shylock uses financial jargon like bond and forfeit, which all sounds very professional, but which contrasts jarringly with the violent imagery of flesh to be cut off. This contrast reflects a broader point of tension in the whole play, the tension between taking a financial, business perspective and taking a personal, emotive perspective. Whereas Antonio claims that money is just business, for Shylock, money isn't just money, it's personal. Part of Shylock's personal, emotive perspective on money is his extreme protectiveness. Before he goes out to dinner one night, he entrusts the house to Jessica, speaking to her in anxious imperatives or commands. "Well, Jessica, go in. Do as I bid you. Shut doors after you." Telling her to shut the doors symbolises his desire for control and his fear of losing something. Then, right before Shylock leaves, he says to Jessica, "Fast bind, fast find, a proverb never stale in thrifty mind." In other words, Shylock believes that if he locks everything up well, fast bind, then he will always be able to find what belongs to him again, fast find. The aphorism, or short, self-evident statement, sums up Shylock's possessive attitude to his wealth. The quote is also a rhyming couplet, 2 lines that rhyme, a common device that Shakespeare uses to emphasise important points. In this case, Shylock's protectiveness and anxiety regarding his wealth. As soon as Shylock leaves, Jessica offers her own rhyming couplet. "Farewell, and if my fortune be not crossed, I have a father, you a daughter, lost." Jessica is saying to herself, if everything goes well, I'll lose my father, and he will lose his daughter. These lines point to the dramatic irony of the whole scene, which is where the audience knows something the characters don't. In this case, we know that the very person Shylock is trusting with his money, Jessica, is planning to escape and steal all of Shylock's possessions. Ending the scene with the word lost ironically contrasts Shylock's desire to find fast his possessions again when he comes home. When Shylock discovers what Jessica has done, he is enraged. In the street he screams, "Oh, my ducats! Oh, my daughter!" The word "my" appears in Anaphora, which is where phrases repeatedly start with the same words. This shows how possessive Shylock is over Jessica and his money. The frantic exclamations reinforce how emotionally attached he is. Shylock is so attached to his money that he even says, "I would my daughter were dead at my foot and the jewels in her ear." The alliteration, repeating the hard D sound, conveys Shylock's bitter emotions, and the contrast between daughter and jewels shows where his priorities lie. He would be happy if Jessica were dead, if only he could recover his jewels. Does Shylock really value his money more than Jessica? Well, it turns out that Shylock's jewels have a deeper emotional meaning for him. Listen to what he says about one of his rings. "It was my turquoise. I had it of Leah when I was a bachelor." Leah was probably Shylock's dead wife, so the ring is a symbol of Shylock's love for his wife. When Jessica carelessly traded the ring in for a monkey, she broke Shylock's heart. Again, we see that Shylock's perspective on wealth is deeply emotional. When Shylock learns that Antonio has apparently lost his ships at sea, he obsessively repeats, "Let him look to his bond, let him look to his bond, let him look to his bond." Remember, the financial jargon bond refers to the agreement that Shylock can take a pound of Antonio's flesh if Antonio can't pay back the loan. Even though the word bond makes it seem like Shylock is talking about money, he's really talking about taking revenge on Antonio. As always, Shylock takes a deeply personal, emotional perspective. The other characters don't understand why Shylock is demanding Antonio's flesh. They think that business is business. Why wouldn't Shylock just be happy with some extra money? Portia offers to pay off the debt immediately. When she finds out that Antonio borrowed 3,000 ducats from Shylock, she gives these confident imperatives or commands. Pay him 6,000, double 6,000, and then treble that. You shall have gold to pay the petty debt 20 times over. Notice how she keeps increasing the amount that she can pay: 6,000, 12,000, 18,000, even 60,000 ducats. That's a lot of cash. 3,000 ducats is over $500,000 in today's money. The hyperbole, or exaggeration, contrasts with the meiosis, or understatement, of petty debt. 3,000 ducats is nothing for Portia. She has a very businesslike understanding of the debt and is happy to throw away some cash to get Antonio out of trouble. But Shylock doesn't want the money anymore. He wants revenge. In court, he even starts sharpening his knife, a symbol of violence and revenge, ready to cut out Antonio's flesh. Horrified, Bassanio asks, "Why dost thou whet thy knife so earnestly?" Shylock grimly replies, "To cut the forfeiture from that bankrupt there." Antonio's flesh is described metaphorically as a forfeiture, which is a financial jargon meaning what is owed. This is yet another example of how Shylock takes a very personal and emotive view of money. He doesn't care about getting his 3,000 ducats back. He wants revenge on Antonio. Luckily for Antonio, thanks to Portia's amazing lawyer skills, Shylock loses the court case because he is found guilty of plotting to take the life of a local Venetian. He must give half his property and money to the state, and when he dies, the other half will go to his daughter Jessica and her new husband, Lorenzo. Ironically, this is described as a gift, even though Shylock obviously has no choice. To top it off, Shylock also has to become a Christian. Stunned, Shylock begs to leave the court, saying, "I pray you, give me leave to go from hence. I am not well." His gloomy, emotive language and exit is a symbol of his isolation and illustrate how devastated he is. Although Shylock technically gets to keep half his money until he dies, he has lost so much: his pride, his religious identity, and his money. As soon as Shylock leaves, the tone immediately changes to relief and happiness. Apart from poor Shylock, everyone else gets a happy ending. Portia tells Antonio some exciting news. "Unseal this letter. 3 of your argosies are richly come to harbour suddenly." In other words, Antonio's ships, which he thought were lost, have arrived in Venice, rich with profit. Nerissa also tells Lorenzo and Jessica that when Shylock dies, they will receive all his money. From the rich Jew, a special deed of gift after his death of all he dies possessed of. So now Bassanio is rich because he has married Portia, Antonio has made a profit from his shipping ventures, and Jessica and Lorenzo will end up with all of Shylock's money. What a contrast to poor Shylock, who has lost everything in his quest for revenge. We hope you enjoyed this Schooling Online production. For more easy lessons on the Merchant of Venice, check out our analysis of the theme of love and friendship in the play.